This is Karen with newclevelandradio.net, and it is time for How to Super Age with Elise Marie Collins. And I don't know about the rest of you out there, but there are some days that I look in the mirror and I say, oh, there's that 16-year-old girl that I remember. And then there are other days I look in the mirror and I have no idea who I'm looking at. However, reading your book, Elise, and I just pick it up and I open it up, and whatever page it gets me to, that's what I read. And I'll tell you, it gives me that spark. It's like, okay, just try this, see how this works, whether it's a different way of eating, exercising, or just thinking. So I love the book, and hopefully you're going to hold it up for all of us and let us know a little bit more about it. She doesn't have it there.
It's Monday.
Usually it's at her fingertips.
It's because I've been working on this book.
Right.
I also wrote How to Super Age, and this book, Chakra Tonics, this was my first book. So I think my book is around here, my other book somewhere, but I've been working literally on a new edition of Chakra Tonics. So it's very exciting. And the podcast, I'm going to let you all know, you're going to be the first to know about how to pre-order it and I'll give you guys all the scoop. But right now, I'm just working on the final touches for the layout. I've added 30 pages and 6 new recipes. This book is all about the chakras, which I'm sure we may hear about today. It's got recipes. Here's, maybe not see that, but that's a chakra lady. Chakras in our body. They help me with teaching yoga, practicing yoga. It's a way to organize our mind, body, spirit connection. And that is all also covered in How to Super Age. No, Super Ager is my book. And this is How to Super Age. So I am really excited about our guest today. And I don't exactly know how to pronounce her last name, but her name is Roxanne. Is it Chaput?
Yeah, Chaput.
Okay, I did it right, Chaput. And she is the founder and chief executive officer of Roxanne Chaput Limited. She is a life and love coach, an inspirational speaker, spiritual guide, and energy healer who guides individuals in transition to create lasting, sustainable change in their lives. Her purpose is to provide a safe and powerful place for her clients to discover the answers they need to move forward spiritually, energetically, personally, with absolute purpose and clarity. So happy to have you on the show, Roxanne. Tell us a little more about yourself and how did you get into this work? Because not everyone I heard you're from Canada, but not everyone, in the North America wakes up and does this kind of work. So how did you get into it?
Yeah, absolutely. So ever since I was a little girl, I just had like this incredible knowingness inside of me that I was going to serve humanity on kind of a greater level is what it felt like. It felt like I was being called from a young age. And I was always very receptive to energy. And it was so funny because even as a child, like people would come to me for wisdom, would come for me to advice, like adults coming to me as like a 5-6-year-old child, and just kind of being in my energy and feeling calm and then regenerated and then kind of going on about their day. So it was something that I've always done. I just never fully understood that these were my gifts. And I come and I stem from a generational line of shamans, so of energy healers, medicine doctors, medicine women, medicine men. I am of the indigenous culture, so I am Métis. So this is something that was always within me. I just never fully understood it until I kind of embarked on life's journey and really going through, tumultuous relationships, unhealthy, a super, super unhealthy marriage. I ended up leaving with my 3 beautiful children. And then shortly after, experienced 4 near-death experiences, which all kind of awakened me even further into where my journey was guiding me.
Wow, that is incredible. Could you say again and spell the name of the indigenous group that you are, your lineage? I would love to hear a little bit more about that. And I think it's in Canada, or let me know a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, we are from Canada. The Métis culture is prominent throughout Canada. So really what a Métis culture is when someone from full Indigenous background perhaps married a French female or a French male. It then became like a mixed culture, which it was called the Métis culture. So Métis is M-E with a, like a little, it's French with a little accent aigu on top with a T-I-S.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. That's very interesting. Yeah, yeah, we don't have, I mean, I think it's a little different in Canada. That's fascinating. And so you came from a lineage of shamans. How did that, I mean, you talked about how when you were a little girl, you felt this calling, which I find really interesting. But how did your family and relatives, did they talk about being shamans, or how was that passed on to you? Or was it, you're nodding. She's nodding for those. No, she's nodding. No. For those listening, some people are watching, some people are listening.
No, absolutely not. So we never spoke about my heritage. And my heritage was unfortunately here in Canada. The Indigenous culture was something that a lot of people hid out of shame and out of a fear. As you know, that there has been a lot of so many issues with the Indigenous culture here in Canada, especially with the find of the residential schools and just throughout the government. So whoever was Indigenous and didn't look Indigenous, a lot of them were scared to denounce that they were from Indigenous background. And my grandmother was raised in an Indigenous setting. However, it was a very unhealthy setting. So she never wanted to speak of her background. We didn't even really know that we were Métis until kind of further down, like my parents, like my family, until we were kind of further in life. And then we knew somewhat, but we didn't fully know the story and, just having the history of it. So it was never something we had spoken about as a family. However, it was something that I always gravitated towards. I always gravitated towards the traditions, to the powwows, to everything that encompassed the Indigenous culture. And then what ended up happening is after my last near-death experience, I had a dream for about 4 months straight. And I do dream interpretations. And this dream was the same dream that came to me for 4 months straight, the same vision. It was this beautiful Indigenous woman. She was standing, like in front of a ravina. And there was teepees beside her, and she had her arms extended to me. And she kept hymning me this beautiful melancholy song. And I just remember feeling like so calm and like such at peace when she was chanting this hymn. And the connection that I felt with her was like of my great grandmother. Like it was like a grandmother, like a maternal, like it was just such a beautiful connection with her. And I couldn't understand what she was trying to tell me in the dream because she kept coming to me every single night. And I was going around the house and I was humming this song, and my partner was like, wow, like that's a beautiful chant. I'm like, this is what she sings to me every night. And I'm like trying to Shazam it, trying to see if maybe subconsciously had picked it up, and, was interpreted it into my dream. But no, I couldn't find it anywhere. And then I had connected with one of my elders from one of my communities. And I was telling him about the dream. And he's like, she's calling you to the land. She's calling you to come and heal and to like follow your ancestry. And I was like, well, what is she telling me? Like, what am I supposed to be doing? And he's like, you're meant to heal. You got to come and heal. Like you have to come to the land and heal. But he didn't first say that I was the healer. And so I had told him like the song, like I sang him the song that she was chanting to me. And he said, wow, he said, my grandfather used to sing me that song when I was a little boy. And he's an elder. And he said that song hasn't been heard for over 100 years. It's an ancient, like it's a traditional healing song. And he said, but it's almost like she tweaked it or geared it toward you, because it's not the exact same, like some of the like of the notes weren't the exact same, but the holistic of the song was. And I was like, wow, okay, like what am I doing with this? Like I was a little bit confused, like where do I start? Where am I going? Like what am I doing? Someone tell me. And then I had met with an incredible spiritual guide afterwards, and I told her the dream, the same thing. And I'm a dreamer, like I do dream interpretation, and I couldn't pick it up. Like I felt the connection, but I couldn't gather all the, the pieces of the puzzle to put it together.
Right.
And she's like, she's calling you to the land to heal. She's like, you're meant to be a shaman. You're meant to be a healer. She's like, you come from a lineage of shamans, like of healers. And as soon as I had that acknowledgement, the last night that I had the dream, I had woken up and I told my partner, I said, listen, I need to go to this land and heal. Like she gave me the vision of where I need to go. Like I'm going to this land to heal. And I know that it's ancient healing grounds, like ancient indigenous healing grounds. And I said, I'll be back. He was just like, okay, like, what are you doing? And it's pouring rain outside. And he's like, you're going in the forest by yourself with black bears and wolves. Okay. I was like, I'll be fine. You know, I just knew that I was going to be protected. And it took 2.5 hours to drive there. And the entire time that I was driving there, it was like, I was just letting go of all my emotions that had pent up throughout the years. I haven't cried in so long. Like I just went through so much and I just, kept to be strong for my children, for myself. And it was like, I couldn't remove that dagger out of my heart without it falling apart. So I just left it there and allowed myself to heal around it, if that makes sense. And it was like this dagger had removed from my heart. And it was like, I was feeling all these emotions, these pent up emotions. It was like a buildup. And it was like, I was reconnecting to my soul in that very moment. I was just letting go of what was and what isn't. And it was just such an incredible experience, just the drive there. And then I get to this beautiful forest and it's about a 15 to 20 minute hike in the forest. And like I said, mind you, it's pouring rain. And I come upon this beautiful, beautiful land. And I knew this is where I was meant to heal. And it was like this beautiful healing rock. And I'm sitting there and as I'm facing it, there's like a rock cliff and it's like all like beautiful, like greenery and trees, like it was just so, so incredible. I could feel the energy of the trees, of the rocks, of the ground, of the animals. The water was nearby, like all the elements really, except for fire. It was just so incredible. And I was smudging on the rocks. So for listeners that don't know what smudging is, it's an indigenous, a lot of people in the indigenous culture do it. A lot of people around the world do it. So you take herbs, you take sage, you take kind of Palo Santo, you can take cedar, tobacco, and you burn it and you cleanse your energy and you have a ceremony. And I'm doing this ceremony in this rock. And there's trees like all around me, but there's no enclosure over the rock. And I'm sitting on this rock for 4.5 hours. And all of a sudden, a deer, a bunny, a little chipmunk is like beside me. Hummingbirds are flying from tree to tree, which hummingbirds don't usually fly when it's pouring rain like that. And all of a sudden, it was just like such an incredible experience. And then I realized after the 4.5 hours, I'm like, not one single drop of rain hit me the entire time that I was sitting on that rock. Not one drop of rain. And it was like, I felt that connection to my soul, to my ancestry, to my lineage, to just like former lives. It was just such an overbearing, but like incredible experience at the same time. And after that moment, I was never the same. My whole life had changed. My whole thinking, my whole thought process, the feeling of inner peace was never like, it never wavered after that point. I knew exactly who I was. I knew exactly what I needed to do. And there was no shaking that anymore. And there was no questioning that. There was no doubt. It was just such an incredible release. And I told myself, I said, now I have to put my theory to the test. Like I did it for myself. I healed myself. Now, can I do this for others? So then I, put some guinea pigs in there, some family and some friends that was like, hey, if I can heal you, I know that I'm meant to do this. And anyway, so I went through these incredible journeys with my friends and family before I started with my clients, and it healed every single one of them. And none of their lives were the same after that. And then I knew.
Wow. Incredible story. And that was in the day. Was it in, okay, because at first I thought you meant it was dark out. And then were your kids at school or were they with your partner? That was very, I love the way yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the kids were with their dad, with my ex-husband. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. I love the way that you just followed that instinct and how powerful that was in that song. Do you still sing that song?
That's my healing song that I use for anyone that I heal. And it's beautiful.
Yeah, those healing songs are so important, especially Indigenous cultures. Years ago, I worked on a film about there was someone in this area, well, in Northern California, not really close to me. And he was the last member of his tribe. He didn't tell anyone his name because that was like, he wasn't that was part of his culture, not to reveal his name, but there was this anthropologist that knew the language that he spoke, and so called him Ishi. That was just man in his culture. But anyway, the reason I'm telling you all that backstory is because he sang healing songs. He would go to the hospital on the UC Berkeley campus and sing healing songs to people that were in the hospital, and the songs were really beautiful. When I worked on that documentary, that was one of my favorite parts, was listening to the songs of the man called Ishi. Yeah.
Love that. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
Roxanne, you mentioned that this totally changed you. Okay. 2 hours you spent. What was it like when you came back to your children? Did they notice a change, or?
Yeah, I think everyone noticed a change, and it was a 2.5 hour drive there, like release, and then over 4 hours there, and then 2.5 hours back. So really, it was like a full day of healing. And after I had done the healing celebration on myself, I always celebrate my spirit guides, and I just always celebrate life around me. So then it was like a healing celebration, like a release of, just being one with myself again. And I think that my parents, everyone I've always been a soulful person. I've always carried wisdom within me. Like, they've always called me and referred to me as an old soul. But I think at this moment, they realized that I really found myself and I found my purpose. And as much as we want to think that we're living our purpose every day, we all have special gifts and abilities within us. That doesn't mean that we're meant to do the career that we're in, or that we're meant to even do the business that we're in. So I think once my parents and like my partner and everyone kind of saw the shift, everyone was just like, wow, how do I get that? Like, how do I feel that way? Because it was just, like I said, it's just unshakable once you kind of get to that point. And I think my kids realized, like, I was just so much more of a nurturing and loving mother. Like, I've always been nurturing and loving toward them, but there's a barrier in a sense, because we're holding all this pressure all the time, and we're holding all this energy all the time, that it comes out in the way that we parent. It comes out in the way that we show up for the world every day. So when we have this and we don't understand subconsciously, and you think about neuro-linguistic programming and all of these essences of who we are, subconscious, all of these things take effect in who we are on a day-to-day basis. And I think my children just realized that I was able to now go with the flow instead of always creating resistance and being a parent.
Beautiful question and beautiful, beautiful response. I know I definitely feel that, and I've been feeling it lately. Sometimes it comes up when you meet someone like you who kind of brings that to the light. It's almost like I sort of think that pressure's gotta, it's just a given, if you might say. But it's so refreshing to hear the way you're talking about this healing and how you are a healing presence in your family and community. I know that you mentioned in your work something called healing at the soullular level. I'll say it again, healing at the, not cellular, soullular, but I'm sure it has to do with cellular. Why is that so important? Tell us a little bit about that. And I also, if you have anything, because this show is how to super age, we're always aging, even kids are aging. But if you have anything to add about the aging process, because I know that healing can happen at any age, and it's important to happen when it does happen, when we need it. And if you have anything around that as well.
Yeah, I'll really speak to that first. And I think that we are human beings, and we are having an incredible 3D experience, and we are a human vessel. And I think that it's incredible knowledge to understand that even though our vessel is aging, as our soul is aging, is that we are attaining wisdom and self-awareness and soul awareness and all these incredible soul and self analogies throughout to the next lifetime, if we think about self-mastery. So it's just about being okay with who you are. And I think that if you feel like you're not 40 and you are 40 and you feel like you're 20, then live like you're 20 and allow your inner child to come through. I think a lot of us are misguided throughout our journey. A lot of us forget our inner child. A lot of us forget to be ourselves, to be our authentic and our most purest form of ourselves, where we were innocent, where we had that innocence, where the world didn't really place those conditions and conformities upon us. And I think that it's important as we age and as we go through life that we remember this inner child and we allow that purity and that beauty to prevail.
Ooh, I love that. Honor your inner child. Allow that beauty and purity to prevail. Ooh, that is ding, 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 ding. So beautiful and so heartfelt. It's taking super aging to the next level, because I think of it as a soul journey, but yeah, you just really added some new color to it. And do you ever, since I was talking about the book Chakra Tonics, do you ever work with the chakras yourself?
Always. Our chakras are energy turbines, right? And if we think about our energy and our dispositions, if our if our chakras are off balance, our whole body of our being is off balance. So, and this is the biggest preface that I make with my clients, is that we are 4-layer beings. We have our spiritual sense, we have, our body, we have our physical, we have our mental. So if we're only encompassing and taking care of the superficial aspect of ourselves, which is our vessel, and we're not taking care of the part that is the sustainable part of us, which is our energy, that is we are doing a massive disservice to ourselves. So our energy is the biggest underlying thing of who we are. We just don't see it on a day-to-day basis. So a lot of us tend to neglect it and don't maintain it and don't do the sustainability that it requires. So when our chakras are disrupted or they're having issues, I like to call it like flowing like a turbine, and it's going the wrong way, or it's just not turning the way that it should. And especially, I'm sure, working with energy, that a lot of people carry a lot of things through their heart chakra, through their throat chakra, and a lot through their sacral. So I think that when we think of this aspect and we think about our energy, it's important to heal every 4 layers of our being and not just, the physical, the mental, or the emotional.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And in yoga, we talk about the different layers like sheaths. So I really appreciate you bringing that all together, because it is so important. And all these layers are important as we go through our life's journey. And whether or not we believe that we're going to go on to another life, I do believe we'll go on to another life. And that's part of what I try to instill in people, that you're doing the work for now and you're doing it for the future. And it is work, but
And
it's fun. Yeah, go ahead.
And if we think about energy, and even in the scientific studies, like I do a lot of research, and, think about religion and think about anything of that aspect, like organized religion. And shamanism isn't spirituality. So I just want people to understand it's not religion. It's just about connecting with our own individual spirituality. It has nothing to do with religious matters or anything of that nature. But I think that when we're dealing and we have, organized religion, and we have all these things that say and that stipulate that energy never dies, right? So energy never dies. And if we are living energy, we are never dying. And if we believe in heaven, or if we believe in the afterlife, or if we believe in anything, or if we believe in science, that means that our energy ascends or transcends to another realm. So that is factual, right? There's nothing that we can really waver upon with that information. So that's just one thing I want to touch on.
Yeah.
As I'm listening to the two of you, it's interesting because, I've grown up with modern medicine and, all the medical techniques. But as I'm listening, I'm thinking to myself, your doctor can write you a prescription and you can take it. And if you don't let the energy work with that medication's not going to work. And I noticed this the other night. I'm a migraine sufferer. And for 3 days, I was just taking my medication and not thinking about anything other than I want the pain to go away. But last night I took it. I was in a different mood and I worked with it. First thing I said to myself as I swallowed it, this is going to work. I'm going to have a good night's sleep. Tomorrow's going to be a better day. And I felt totally different. I think a lot of us do this, but we don't realize it. And then when we hear you or Elise talking about it, sometimes we sit back and go, oh no, that can't really happen. But I think if we stop and take a peek at ourselves, we'll see that when you allow your energy to come out, it makes a whole difference in who you are.
Right. And when we create resistance, we receive resistance in return. And that comes to our healing, that comes to the laws of attraction, the universal laws, anything of that nature. So when we create resistance within us, no matter what we think, if we're creating that resistance, we're never going to have the effect that we need it to have. So I think that's a great point to that.
Yeah, I love that. And there's so many things I could talk to you about. What about forgiveness? Because what I find, I also, I counsel people on their health, and I do it from a spiritual perspective. And people, including myself, we can be so hard on ourselves. And I find that often I'm just, telling my clients and yoga students just to give themselves forgiveness. So it sounds like you work a lot with forgiveness. How do you work with forgiveness, and how do you find the people that you work with need that? Because I'm finding people need it a lot, including myself.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point to healing. And I think that's why, shamanic healing, which I mean has been around for over 100,000 years, it's being able to contend with your soul and to be able to be at peace with yourself. And I think that when we think about forgiveness, we are the only living being on this planet that we hold guilt, we hold resentment, and we hold regret. So if we think of it in this nature, we are divine beings, we are a divine creature. Guilt and all those feelings come from conditioning. So if we think about the essence of our soul and the purity of who we are, we shouldn't be hating each other. We shouldn't be hating ourselves. We shouldn't have this feeling of divisiveness throughout the world. We shouldn't, you know what I mean? There's so many things that shouldn't be happening and transpiring throughout the world. And I think that when it comes to forgiving ourselves is to understand that we are human beings having an incredible experience. And it doesn't matter if we go through challenges or not, or put ourselves through challenges or not. I tell my kids all the time, go and make as many mistakes as you want. That's how you're going to learn. That is how you're going to experience life. Just don't keep making the same mistakes that are going to like seriously affect you or seriously affect somebody else. I think that we still have to be good human beings at the end of the day. But I think that we are intended to make mistakes, and forgiveness of can be on such a great scale of capacity, right? And I think that forgiving others, when we don't forgive others and we hold that hostility within us, we hold that resentment within us, we hold that hatred within us, that corrupts the essence of who we are. That makes us sick. That causes illness within our body, within our mental frame, within our physical frame, within our emotional frame. Why would you allow somebody else to have that control over your life and allow somebody else to have that power over your life? That power belongs to you and to only you. So I think when we think of it in this sense, that nobody should be able to shake the core essence of who you are. Only you should be able to fluctuate how you feel about yourself or how you feel throughout a day. Nobody else should have that control or that power over you.
Wow. Yeah. I'm wondering, Roxanne, if you could, for our listeners who may not be familiar with shamanism or what is a shaman, and honestly, it's such a cross-cultural word too. So, I'm sure in one shaman in one culture is different. So, what is your definition of a shaman?
Yeah, so a shaman really is, and like I said, shamanism has been around for over 100,000 years, and they were all throughout the world. And back then, in those days, in that era, they would be considered like there would be communities like tribal communities, and these would be the medicine men, the medicine women, the spirit doctor, the energy doctor in that community. And every community had maybe one or two shamans. And the thing about shamanism, the modern day shamans that you see, a lot of people are shamans now. Shamans can't just become a shaman. It's something that you are generationally brought into. It comes from ancestry that you're initiated into, you're born into it, or it ends up happening that you end up being called into shamanism. There's no way of doing like education on being a shaman, like a medical doctor or anything of that nature. It's something that comes to you by gift. So if you think about, medicine doctors, anyone that was healing their communities, and they could have had different words throughout the globe. However, they all kind of agreed that shaman was going to be like the word, just like doctor throughout the world.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. And I like that you're either called or it comes through a lineage, through an ancestral lineage, because I think there are many people calling themselves shamans, and just watch out.
And, you know, it's great because I think in becoming a shaman, there's a huge initiation process. Like your elders have to initiate into and claim that you are also a shaman. Like you can't just go and say, I can't just go and say I'm a shaman. I had to have another shaman, another elder claim that, yes, you are in fact a shaman. Like it was like an initiation process, a fire ceremony. It was like a huge, incredible process in order to actually accept my gifts and realize them.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And you were speaking about being initiated by elders in your culture and in your own wise experience. How do you see, there's Western culture where there's a lot of ageism and we don't really respect and honor elders. And I'm also a trained gerontologist, which is a little different. It's very academic. It's not, we're not doing all this energy work, but I love studying gerontology because I do appreciate elders just have that energy of the heart, and we have to be compassionate towards elders because we're more vulnerable, just like with children. So I'm just wondering if you could speak a little bit about your own experience with the elders that initiated you, and maybe anything else that touches upon how you view elders in your life and in the world.
Yeah, and I think this is great. And I think this comes from how we're raised. And I think this is how we raise our children, is always to respect the wisdom and always to expect those that are wiser than us. And I think that I have such a love and appreciation for anyone beyond my years, because I know that they can transcend knowledge to me. I know that they can enlighten me on something that as human beings and as kids, we think we know everything, but we don't know anything, like we don't know anything in the grand scheme of life. So I think that it's really important to honor and respect our elders. I think they have so much knowledge to transcend down to us. And I think that that relationship should be beautified, and that most young people should be engaging with their elders and finding that wisdom before that wisdom is no longer there or being able to be carried through.
I totally agree. And I wonder if you have any ideas about that, because, right, in non-traditional culture, it's like more derogatory things said towards elders or older people. And that makes me sad.
Yeah, and that gets so funny because not even like 1,000 years ago, our elders were the ones who kept us alive, because they knew the history of the war, they knew the history of the land, they knew the history of the food, the sources, the water, the resources. And now we just it's like there's no appreciation for this knowledge anymore. And that, like what you said, it just breaks your heart, because they have so much to give and so much to offer, even if they're not in a tribal community. Any elder, any of our grandparents have so much wisdom to transcend down to us. They have so much to tell us. They have so many stories that it can prevent us from maybe going down a path that we thought may have been beneficial, but really essentially somebody already went down that path and it was a huge disaster. You know what I mean? There's just so many things that they can enlighten us, medicines, everything that they've seen throughout their lifetime. We will never know that. We will never know that unless you sit down with an elder, have a cup of tea, and just have those conversations.
I love that. Sit down with an elder, have a cup of tea, because it's like Chakra Tonics. That's the idea.
Yeah.
Sit down, make a delicious cup of tea, and just it's like slowing it down, slow your energy down. There's no rush. And that is so much about the healing that you're speaking about. I know you talk a lot about, or maybe not a lot, you can qualify it, but and you use the knowledge of inner shadow. And I wonder how you would define inner shadow, and how, if you could just pass on some wisdom to our listeners today about how can we, I don't know, make friends with our inner shadow, because I'm thinking the inner shadow is, I would define it as that part of me that's resisting or not going with the flow, that's not, I haven't integrated, but I'd love to hear your take on it, Roxanne.
Yeah, so really our inner shadow, how it's developed is that it's pieces of ourselves, fragments of ourselves that we end up pushing into the darkness of ourselves. So we allow our light to be shown by the world, to be seen by the world, yet a lot of us hide the essence of who we really are to the world. So in essence, I'll give a few examples of this. When we're small children, our parents, as women, how many of our mothers or fathers told us, be nice, be kind, be this, be that. So then we thought that when we were being mean or being rude or, just having a voice of our own, we were told that that wasn't accepted into society or within our family, within our community, within our school systems. So we suppress this part of ourselves and we put this at the back of our shadow. So this is what ends up constructing our shadow. So going throughout life, going through so much conditioning and conformity through the school system, through jobs, all these things, we end up pushing parts of ourselves backward where we lose touch and we lose the essence of who we are by doing this. So instead of, and like little boys, don't cry, be strong, don't cry, don't show your emotions. So they suppress this part of themselves and they allow this to go into the shadow part of themselves where it ends up showing up as mental health issues, anxiety, depression, anger. All these things end up showing up as a consequence to suppressing this darker side of us that wasn't accepted or allowed within our homes, our communities, and so forth. So when we have this shadow, and it could be, you're too smart, you're too geeky, so then you pretend to be dumb, or you pretend not to know as much, or if you're a joker and people don't like your jokes, like you tend not to be so jokey anymore because it's not accepted, right? So we take all these little fragments and all these little pieces of ourselves and we place this in our shadow and we allow, and it ends up going into our subconscious because a lot of this happens when we're at a very young age within our core belief systems that are being built and our value systems. And then we forget who we are and we forget why we're triggered or why we're activated by certain people, because we see people kind of being the person that we want to be, yet we have resistance around it because we can't be that person ourselves. So it's all mirror reflection. And the part about the shadow for me and doing shadow work is that allow your shadow to come to the light, contend with your shadow, accept who you are, show the world who you are, and stop hiding parts of yourself. You are a beautiful being. You have beautiful characteristics and you have beautiful gifts. And when when we go through life and we feel like we have to hide pieces of ourselves, a lot of us end up hiding the most precious gifts that we have within us by doing that.
Mm. Ooh, let's take a deep breath together. You can't escape that shadow work.
Yeah, I can't. It'll come up.
Right? Yeah, you just kind of made us all go, oh. All those things were overriding. It's not working, everybody. So on a typical day, if we can't get in touch with the shaman, at the end, we'll find out how to get in touch with you, because I'm sure you could help some of our listeners. But for today, for example, how do you help? I mean, what would you suggest, if we're feeling like in a bad mood or we feel that disconnection? How would you, what would you advice or wisdom would you like to give to our listeners that they could just implement in the next hour, in the next 24 hours to help to integrate that if they can't, work with a trusted, maybe even a therapist, but, such a great point. And I think we're all just kind of like having all of our shadow stuff come to the surface.
I think the first part of anything is self-awareness and self-acknowledgement, and that we are human beings. We have over 27 different emotions, and it's okay to feel every single one of them. However, to be stuck in the same emotion, like a perpetual cycle, is not healthy, especially if it's a negative emotion, right? We don't want to be stuck in our negative emotions. So for those that are really just, having a crappy day, do something that you love. Trust yourself, be yourself, because that's what ends up happening with our mood, with our emotions and our mental health, is that we are not being ourselves and we're exhausted from being someone else, or that what we think we should be, or that other people want us to be, right? So it's just to be yourself, allow your inner child to come to play, allow that beautifulness that you have within you to come to play, things that you felt that you need to hide from the world, allow those things to prevail, allow those things to come through, and don't let anything stop you.
Ooh, another great advice. Be
Absolutely.
yourself. And I love your work with inner children, and just have fun. It's so simple.
Like, I don't care. Do it in the grocery aisle. Who cares? Who cares what people think? Just have fun. You know, life
Yeah.
is like that we have fun and we're taking it way too seriously. And that's not the point of life. Life is supposed to be, you know, full of joy and love and life. And yes, we're going to go through trials and tribulations, but we can't let that define or dictate our life.
Yeah. And what would you say to somebody who is really caught up? I mean, there's a lot of negative and dark things happening out in the world. I think none of us can deny that.
Yeah.
And so what do you say to someone when they're really thinking about that a lot?
Don't watch the news. Don't watch social media. Don't look at social media. The point of the world and the divisiveness that's happening in the world, the more that we allow the energy to shift within the negative energy frame, the more that we are negative and our thought process is going toward the negative, we are now helping the dark energy win over the light energy. So let's all stay in the light energy and balance that energy and believe that everything will be great, because it will. I know it. I channel it all the time. I know that everything will work out. We're supposed to have a balance throughout the world. We need to have dark. We need to have light, just like we have dark and light within us, and that's okay and that's healthy. We have to have a yin and yang for balance. But when we are investing ourselves and draining ourselves, when we have so many beautiful gifts that we could be serving humanity and serving the world, yet we feel defeated and we feel discouraged and we feel like we feel hopeless because of where the world is going, we are now playing into the narrative of allowing that negative energy to consume us and that darkness to consume us. And it's up for us to shed the light and allow the light to prevail over the world.
You know, your message is so important that I wish, you know, we could just stand on a rooftop and scream it. I was watching something on TV yesterday where somebody has created this new concept of seeing how vulnerable we all are. And they were turning things into negative. And all of a sudden it went from 10 people there to 20 to 1,000 and more. And what the founder of this thought was, I just want to prove that we can talk about anything and we can change our emotions. We shouldn't be able to do that. We should be able to dig down deep inside ourselves and find our truth. And as I watched it last night, I got caught up on it because I thought this guy was real about the negative attitudes. When I finally realized it, I just couldn't stop applauding him, because from the rest of that point on, I've only been thinking of positive things. And we might say that we can't do that. We might say that we're so depressed and so down, but there's always something that we can find. And I know watching you right now, Roxanne, with the angel wings behind you and the halo, I love it because it's made me feel so at peace during this podcast. Little things can do that.
Thank you. And I think that that's why I've made it my soul's mission, is to heal, love, and awaken others, because I feel like when we have that undeniable inner peace within us, nothing from the external can shake that, and nothing in the external could make us think that we are anything less than who we actually are as human beings and as divine creatures.
Oh, I just got chills. That was beautiful. And I love that you really embody that message. You just, I mean, some are listening to this podcast on different channels, and then some are watching, and we see, Karen just gave us a great visual, but your voice, your essence, it really comes through, I think, on all these different transmissions, whether it's oral or visual. You're transmitting all of this healing energy, which I think that's what healers do. I would love for you to share how we can get in touch with you, because for one, I think I'm going to be getting in touch with you. I want some cellular healing. So how can we get that cellular healing?
Healing at the soul level, opposed to just the cellular level. Yes, anyone can, reach me through my website at www.roxannechaput.com, and all of my social media handles are under that name as well.
And we'll put those in the show notes. And do you do sessions with people long distance, like on Zoom or something? Okay, she's nodding.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I'm going to be one of your clients. Yes, I love it. I love it. And it was such a great message for anyone in any stage of the life course, from, childhood, just to really just be yourself and to let that come through.
And give
So
yourself permission.
give yourself permission and give yourself permission to be human. One of my biggest, I would say, she's my main yoga teacher, let's say that. And she always tells us, like, her favorite phrase is to say, how human of me, how human of me. So I was thinking of that when you were saying a few things. It's been such a pleasure to interview today. I think everyone listening and Karen and I are just thrilled with this interview. We'd love to have you back sometime. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Any final words for our listeners?
I just want to say that everyone has an amazingness within them, and go and get it, go and find it, and release him or her to the world.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody have a peaceful day and take that into the night. Have a great day.
Yes.